Hello, my loves. Welcome back to the Balance Blonde podcast, Soul on Fire. I am so excited that on today's show, we have Anthony William, the medical medium, back for round 2. We had him on for our first conversation at the end of January. It was our most listened to episode ever on Soul on Fire. It was so well received by you guys, which doesn't surprise me because Anthony is changing the game when it comes to healing chronic illness and giving people their lives back. He has helped heal with his medical medium information millions of people all over the world. He's been doing this work since he was a child, since he started hearing the voice of Spirit of Compassion, which you can hear about in the first episode we did together, which we'll leave linked below in the show notes in case you haven't heard it, but you're just tuning in now. You can totally jump into this episode without having heard the first one. But if this episode leaves you curious about Anthony's ability to talk to spirit and where he gets his information, what his upbringing was like, how he got into this world of writing books and helping people heal, then you will love to listen to that episode, which is also packed full of information. I find myself re-listening to that first episode over and over, just like every few weeks, to relearn different things that we talked about, different things that he shared in that episode. Interestingly enough, Anthony said something similar, which is that when Spirit of Compassion, which is where he gets his information from, and the voice that shares this very advanced medical information with him, when Spirit of Compassion shares with Anthony, Anthony writes it all down and he finds himself studying it later to learn everything because it comes so fast in such abundance, as you'll see with Cleanse to Heal, his fabulous book, which is absolutely massive. I have it sitting here in front of me. It is over 500 pages. It's actually close to 600 pages. It is just a next level book that goes into so many different protocols for 200 different types of disease and chronic illnesses. So the reason that I became interested in Anthony's work is because I have been suffering from chronic illness for a long time. I've been diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease. I've lived on Mattress Island, as Anthony so eloquently calls it, and his information that he shares has been a huge part of my healing journey. And as we talk about in this episode, because Anthony is sharing information that is truly healing people, he does come up against a lot of criticism and controversy and skepticism. So if you are a skeptic, we welcome you. We're happy that you're here. We're not here to push this information on anyone. Everyone has different opinions and different approaches to healing. But as my mom always says, the proof is in the pudding. And in this case, the proof is in the celery juice and the healing diet and the cleansing, which you can read all about in Cleanse to Heal, his fabulous new book that goes deep on everything from Lyme disease to autoimmune conditions to hormone imbalances to weight loss to acne, IBS. The list goes on. I mean, anything that you could think of that so many of us suffer from, he talks about in this book. So I wanted to host a fun giveaway with Cleanse to Heal. So just so everyone knows, this is not affiliated with Anthony at all. I'm just choosing to give away 5 Cleanse to Heal books to people who are listening. So if you're out there and you can't afford the book, you're going through a hard time right now, or if you just can't get your hands on the book for some other reason, I would love to enter you into this giveaway to give away 5 books that I will just purchase for you on Amazon and have sent to you. So to enter this giveaway, you can rate and review this podcast on iTunes. Send me a screenshot to jordan@thebalancedblonde.com. And then for bonus points, you can subscribe to my new YouTube channel. And I'm super excited about YouTube and all the fun things. We should definitely have Anthony on the YouTube channel soon. And then just send me that awesome screenshot over to jordan@thebalancedblonde.com. And I will enter you to win the giveaway. And I will choose giveaway winners in about a week and a half. So you can expect to hear back from me then. And all right. So we talked about such good stuff in this episode. I don't want to go on and on in the intro. I am just super honored and elated to have Anthony back on the show. I also just want to shout out the fact that his new book has like over 60 recipes in it, which is groundbreaking for those of us who follow a medical medium style diet and those of us who follow the salt, oil, sugar-free, plant-based life, the way that I do and the way that I teach about. I'm looking at his sweet potato tots right now on page 420. They look so good. He has cauliflower sushi. He has steamed Brussels sprouts. There's lots of innovative things in here. And I just wanted to mention that because if you're looking for a good healthy cookbook, there are not that many out there that actually abide by the salt, oil, sugar-free, plant-based lifestyle. So I highly recommend this book also for the recipes and for everything else. And then lastly, before we dive into the episode, I really just wanted to thank Anthony for the work that he does in the world. He is truly a trailblazer. He deals with so much negativity and criticism and also so much positivity as well, and puts himself out there to be a voice for the chronically ill. And if you've never been chronically ill, then I hope you never have to be. But if you have been, and if you've been in the position that I've been and so many other millions of people in the world, then you know the gratitude runs so deep for someone as selfless and knowledgeable and gifted truly as Anthony. So I wanted to thank him for the work that he does in the world and for taking time out of his busy, amazingly packed life to come back on Soul on Fire and to just be a friend. He's a dear friend. Every time I talk to him, I get a huge smile on my face. He has a heart of gold. He is so pure. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. So anyone who has anything negative to say about him ever, just know he has a heart of gold. His intentions are golden, pure, as you'll hear in this episode. He personally goes into libraries to stock them with medical medium books because he wants this information to be free and accessible and available to the people who need it most, to the people who are suffering. And I just can't say enough wonderful things about him. He is the best of the best. Anthony, we love you. The Balance Blonde tribe loves you. You're amazing. So yes, enter that giveaway. Remember, it's not affiliated with Anthony. It's just my gift to you. I want everyone to read this book. And before we dive into the episode, I want to thank our sponsor for today's show, Hum Nutrition. Hum Nutrition is my favorite beauty supplement company. I wanted to shout out that the beautiful Jessica Bippen, I hope I'm saying your last name right, Balance Blonde reader and supporter and podcast listener and a friend of mine. She is one of the registered dietitians that you can speak to on Hum Nutrition. And I just learned that Jess cleared her skin and helped her irregular digestion when she started focusing on nutrients and holistic diet, which of course is something we talk about in this episode. I want you to know that you can use the code SOUL, SOUL, for 20% off Hum Nutrition products. Some of my very favorite products in their repertoire are their Daily Cleanse, their Mighty Night, which helps me sleep right now. I am struggling sleeping, so it's helping me a lot. Huge fan of their Gut Instinct and their Moody Bird for that time of the month. And if you are not sure where to start with supplements, but you're into supplements and you want to try them and you're interested in them, then you can take a short little quiz on Hum Nutrition. They'll help you out. And you can also speak to those registered dietitians on their site, like Jessica. You can shop by immunity, skin, hair, body, mood, vegan. You know, I'm always shopping by that vegan option. And they have so many different options. I'm a huge fan also of their raw beauty powder. It helps with energy. It helps with metabolism. It tastes really good. I like to drink it in the morning. It has a fruit and vegetable blend in it with antioxidants and adaptogens and enzymes. So I know you'll be a fan. Hum Nutrition, use that code SOUL, SOUL. Now let's get into this episode with Anthony William. Anthony, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here and so honored to have you sharing your info with us. I was telling you before we started recording that our last episode together was the most popular episode on the podcast of all time. So I'm excited to bring you back for more. You are a dear friend, someone I trust wholeheartedly and love so much. So thank you for being here and welcome back.
Well, it's amazing to be here. I'm honored, really, and your listeners are the best. And I'm just happy to be here. It's so great.
Okay, the first question I want to ask you before we get into all the details of Cleanse to Heal, your new book, is a little bit about coronavirus. People sent in questions for you. Everyone wants to know your stance on corona. What do we have to be fearful of? Is everything going to be okay? And how can we protect ourselves from getting sick?
Well, there's always going to be something we're up against. All the years have been preparing people to get their bodies stronger. And that's the key, having tools, making sure immune systems are stronger. It's always been about that, because if we're concerned about viruses, if we're concerned about that kind of thing, well, that's the whole basis of why everybody's sick to begin with. Millions of chronically ill people for years and decades, sick with multiple sclerosis and severe fibromyalgia and eczema and psoriasis and rheumatoid arthritis and the list of lupus, and the list goes on. We're dealing with viruses anyway, keeping people chronically ill, breaking them down, beating them down. And so it's always been about, let's come out of that. Let's get stronger. Let's have our immune systems where they need to be, because we're up against so much. And then we can take control and we can feel like, empowered. So then when something that something comes around, like we're up against something else, that wait a minute here. Wait a minute. I'm empowered. I've been taking control of my health. I've been taking control of my life. And so there's a new virus out. It's like, no, I've been working hard on it. I'm getting myself where I need to be. And I need to be, and so it's always been like, there's hundreds of viruses out there that affect people in their lives day to day. It
Right.
leads them to being bedridden. And that's the thing, like multiple sclerosis, that's viral. And how many people are bedridden because of it, or in wheelchairs because of it?
Exactly.
And lupus is viral. Research and science doesn't know that. That's medical medium information. Of course, it's been that for years and years before anything was published about anything being viral. It's always been medical medium information. And the thing is it's really hurt a lot of people. Viruses have really hurt a lot of people. We're talking decades of chronic illness. People being swept under the carpet, pushed aside, kicked aside, not listened to, not heard. And so really what it is let's just get ourselves stronger. Let's get our immune systems back. Let's always be prepared. And that's how I look at everything.
So what I've been wondering about with the coronavirus is, how similar is it to these other viruses like Epstein-Barr and Lyme and lupus and everything that you've been mentioning, in that those viruses get so serious they can keep us bedridden and last in our system in a very long-term kind of way? Is that something we should be worried about with the coronavirus, or is this something that isn't so worrisome? I would love your insight on that.
Well, it's about lowering our immune systems. And that's the thing is, we get hit with anything. When we get hit with anything, our immune systems get lower. And then we're susceptible to more things. We're susceptible to more problems. And that's another thing to just be, to be open-minded about. What happens when you have the Epstein-Barrs and you're dealing with all the different viruses that are out there, the HHV6 and the shingles viruses and the HHV7 and undiscovered versions and strains and mutations of all this. And we're already up against all this as it is. And then we get anything that any kind of flu virus. Any kind of flu virus can just knock us back. And that's something I've always said for years. It's like, I've seen people struggling, seen people with all the different conditions and symptoms with lupus or any kind of condition or bad fibromyalgia or severe chronic fatigue syndrome. And then they get a bad flu virus. And it could have a name. It could have any name to it. I remember back in the late 80s, there was the Russian flu. And then, I remember so many different flus, and there's different, they name flus the strangest names or forever what reason. And then, and then there was other flus and then there was the H1N1, right? It was the whole thing, the swine flu. It's like, they come up, when there's a new bug around and, it could knock us back. It could knock our immune system down. And we've always been up against this throughout the years that we can get our immune system knocked back. And that's why I'm just like, wait a minute here. When we're dealing with we're dealing with all these other viruses and bacteria, and we're dealing with all these other environmental causes, environmental issues. We're dealing with the toxic heavy metals. And, so when something's going around, like, anything, it's just about, we can do something about this. We can take control over our health so that we have the right tools, get our immune system really strong. And that's how I look at it, really.
Well, I love that. That's very empowering to hear that we can take our health into our own hands as long as we keep our immune system functioning nice and well. So I know you talk a lot about that in your new book. What would be some of your top immune boosting tips and tricks for all of us who are looking to do that, especially right now with everything going on in the world?
That's what it is. It's what can I do to keep that immune system strong? And I lay that out in the books, and I've always have. And Cleanse to Heal, I especially lay that out.
Yes,
like I really, really, have that there in somebody's hands. So, they're not stuck. And I really talk about the immune system. I talk about the medical medium vitamin C shock therapy and the medical medium zinc shock therapy. And I even have flu dosages with supplements where the dosages for flu and the right supplements for flu and cleansing to get the poisons out that keep our immune system down. Because everybody's walking around with the mercury and the aluminum and the copper and all the different toxic poisons and toxins and poisons. We're doing the scented candles, which scented candles are disastrous for our immune systems. Unless they're natural. Yeah, they have to be naturally scented, like really natural, like maybe an essential oil candle or something. But anything that's, not natural like that, like the plug-in fresheners and colognes knock the immune system down really low.
Wow.
And perfumes knock the immune system down really low. And so we're always up against all of this cologne, all of this conventional perfume. And this isn't just like a little scented, essential oil that we have on us. It's these colognes and perfumes are really hard on our immune systems. I talk about that in the book. And, like I said, in the scented candles, and then we're up against, all the conventional, we're up against the pesticides and the herbicides that everybody's spraying and on people's front lawns and around apartment buildings and in streets. And we have all the different pesticides, the herbicides. Then we have the toxic heavy metals we're up against. And I go in really detail about this. And when we're pumping our own gas, when we pump our own gas, what that does, we're breathing in those gas fumes. Nobody pumped their gas years ago. Like, I'm not trying to date myself or anything, but going back, no one pumped their own gas going back.
That's something I always think about. Like, when I am pumping my own gas, I think this cannot be good for me to be breathing in these fumes. It's so strong smelling and my body feels so sensitive to it.
It goes into the liver. So as you're pumping the gas and you're getting that downwind of the fumes coming right out of there, right into the liver, the minute it touches the skin, those fumes, it instantly enters the liver because that stuff is a solvent. And gasoline is a solvent. And I talk about that. And all these solvents and all these different chemical compounds that are toxic to us feed all the bugs we all walk around with. because the people walk around bugs. I mean, that's the whole thing. And we end up feeding these bugs, and our immune system just lowers more, and our liver gets more stagnant and sluggish more and more. And, having tools to build it up, and that having the book, like I've never gone this far with a medical medium book. I mean, I have doctors telling me every day, like, look, we keep your medical medium books in our internal medicine practice, and MDs keep a lot of medical medium books across the country in their practices. There's thousands of doctors now that use them as reference guides. And what I'm hearing now is we've never had anything so detailed ever before in any health book that's ever been created, or any health book that's ever been out there. It's the most comprehensive health book in our time. And there may not be anything more comprehensive unless I put something else past this. And that's how intense it is, where I do dosages and supplements, and I talk about the causes of almost 200 different symptoms and conditions. It's like holding somebody's hand through their healing process.
It's seriously like an encyclopedia. I have it here in front of me. It's incredible. And I'm curious because it is so comprehensive. I have 2 questions specifically about writing it. Number 1, how long did it take you to write? And number 2, what is your process of writing your book?
Well, Spirit of Compassion speaks every word to me, and then I have to write it down because I'm not a smart guy. And I've always said that. And again, I'm not educated. So that's another thing too. I never went to a university. I never went to college.
You don't really need it. You have the education and spirit of compassion every single day.
I never took a nutritional course. I never took any course ever with natural health or any kind of health. Never done any of that. And all the information that's in the medical medium books and Cleanse to Heal never was out there before. And what happens is that, I have to write the words down as I hear it. It's a process. And it turns out to be a stack of paper and really high. And then I have to type it into the computer word for word and go
there. You write it down with a pen first.
Write it down with a pen. And it's a brutal process. And then, I still have to learn it. Learn it. I'm hearing it and writing it word for word. And it could take a long time. If I do it every day, 16, 18 hours a day, like I did Cleanse to Heal, then it's a process that took almost a year. And it's funny because this book is so heavy too. Actually, when I first got it, I was like, oh my God, what is this thing? 10 pounds. I don't know what this, it was crazy. And then I realized how much I really put into it. It was just, oh my God.
No, you should be very proud of yourself. It's incredibly comprehensive. I can't believe how many hours a day you were able to work on it. You have an incredible work ethic.
Well, you know what?
Don't sleep very much.
I'm honored you even think so. You know what happened is I would do it until I would practically pass out. Then I would end up on my office floor, laying there. I'd fall asleep on my office floor, like curled up with this little pillow.
My God.
And then when I would wake up, Spirit of Compassion would be like, you ready to go again?
Wow. So Spirit of Compassion was your writing coach. They were ready to get this out there.
It was one of those things where we need this out more than ever. People are so sick, and it's not just that, that the threat of what we're up against now that's changed the whole country and the whole world right now. It's in the United States alone, 250 million Americans have a symptom that they don't have a real answer to.
Right.
Even acne, there's no answer to. It leaves people completely baffled. And that's the whole thing. And so when there's no answers, the guessing games happen. And now we're playing guessing games, and we can play them for years and years. And we can have bloating, and then acne, and then fatigue, and then it goes on, and tingles and numbness and dizziness and eye floaters and tinnitus and ringing in the ears and eczema and psoriasis with no answers.
Yeah.
And, in the medical medium books were about, wait a minute, we have answers for the first time. It's not a guessing game that the alternative medicine world plays and the conventional world plays. And Jordan, one of the craziest things I've ever seen is the conventional system doesn't have an answer for all the chronic illness symptoms and conditions. And then the alternative industry actually, they don't have an answer either, because in the end, they go to default and they go right to the conventional wisdom, which is it's your body attacking itself, or it's your genes, or it's your hormones, which was a game all from the 1950s. It was to put women in their place. That was a disempowerment move that happened from the conventional system, was to blame everything on your hormones, which that was literally purposely there to disempower women starting in 1950. And we carry that same thought process today. And it's unbelievable how we're just completely disempowered with this old grandfathered man law. That's what it is. It's an old grandfathered man law that keeps women down to this day, where if you're playing with your different alternative remedies and you're not better yet, then it falls right into the pathway of, oh, it's your body, causing it. And when women flooded into doctors' offices in the 1950s with hot flashes and tingles and numbness and fatigue and heart palpitations, they were told it was hormones. That was the answer. And then as years went on, where women got sicker and sicker, then they were told it was their body attacking itself, but it was all rigged up to sell hormones. It was all a game. So here's the problem with alternative medicine. They all still defaulted right to hormones. They're going right back to that old 1950s thing that kept women down, that told them they were crazy. It said because they were a female, because they had hormones, and that's why they're sick. It's been an insult since then. It's insulting women. It's unbelievable what the industries do. And alternative industry, as much as I love it, as much as it offers so many great things, it's still back in time. It's still back to no answers in the end. And you know what? I think probably some people in your audience probably realize this too. When you're sick long enough, and it's not just some bloating or a little bit of acne, and you're going to doctor, which is terrible to even have that. And when you go to the doctors, and then you go to a specialist and to a neurologist, and now you have anxiety, and now you have these weird tingles and numbness. Now you have these eye floaters, or this feeling like your limbs are weak, or you have, aches and pains or burning skin, or endometriosis or fibroids or PCOS, you'll end up finding out that there's no answers in the end. And that you end up finding out that science and research completely dropped the ball for womankind. And that's why the medical medium community is the largest health community in the world right now. And because it's a safe space to actually, it's the largest health community in the world for the chronically ill, and the largest safe space for the chronically ill, because there's answers. It's like, wait a minute, you mean my body's not attacking itself and destroying me? I'm not a bad person. I'm not at fault. I'm not I don't have a terrible body. The body shaming that's happening to women is unbelievable. It's despicable. Once you say you have autoimmune and your body's destroying itself and attacking itself, you're body shaming. Once you say it's your genes, you're body shaming. It's discrimination in its worst way. And we sit around and we act like it's not happening, and we just bow down to it. And the thing is, with the medical medium information, it's about, no, we're not taking that anymore. It's why I'm up against so much opposition. It's why I'm discriminated against all the time. Well, I'm originally discriminated about hearing, because I hear a voice, and that voice gives me medical information. And so that's discrimination because I hear a voice. But then women are discriminated for decades. And it's unbelievable how it's done. It's like, no, it's your genes. And then, no, it's your bad thoughts. I mean, tell a 15-year-old, a 17-year-old that the reason why they're sick is because they're creating it with their bad thoughts. Talk about a new body, like a new, a new kind of attack. And then, because that's just really bad all in its own. And then when you're on your journey to heal and you think science and research has it all down, where no, science and research will protect me. They have an answer. I'm going to a new doctor now, and I'm going to a new doctor. And doctors are amazing. I love that. Incredible. But they only have so much to work with. And then you find out, wait a minute, I don't know what I have, what's going on. I have to go to now another specialist, and now I'm at a pulmonologist, and now I'm at a psychiatrist, and now I'm at a neurologist. And that's what women go through every day. And once you find out, wait a minute, there's no answers here, something just it's a serious experience for people and what people are going through. And it's unfair and it shouldn't be happening. And that's why we've become the largest safe space in the world for the chronically ill now, is because people are like, wait a minute, there's answers and I'm not at fault.
Well, that's how I felt reading your new book, to be honest. Just so many different sections made me feel like, okay, this is so empowering. My body is not attacking itself like I've been told. My hormones are not against me like I've been told. So I do want to talk a little bit more about hormones with you. And I know in this book, you talk about the true cause of hormone imbalance, which a lot of us in my audience, we suffer from. So if we could talk about that a little bit, what is really causing hormone imbalance and how can we get them back into balance?
Well, a big part of it is our liver produces hormones, our adrenals produce hormones. And when our liver is filled up with all kinds of toxins and poisons, I call them troublemakers. And I have a whole section in Cleanse to Heal about the troublemakers and what they are. And so our liver gets these low-grade viruses sitting in there for years, or it gets a whole bunch of heavy metals in there. And heavy metals are everywhere. We all have them in us, and our liver sops them up like a sponge. And then we're on really, really high fat, high protein diets. And there's nothing wrong with healthy fats. And, I love healthy fats and all that, but we're usually raised to begin with the high fat, high protein diets, whether you're vegan or vegetarian or animal protein, whether you're in that spectrum too. But we're usually doing the higher fats. We burn out our liver. We burn out the liver's bile reserves. And that happens. So then we're burning out the liver's bile reserves. So then the liver can't break down fats. And then they float around in our bloodstream and they start clogging up organs. And then we start getting that little spare tire around us and we start battling weight. Like, how come I'm battling weight? And that happens. And then our adrenals get worn down because we have caffeine addictions, which I understand. This world's hard. I mean, I do not fault anybody for matcha tea and coffee drinks and chocolate or whatever. I do not, because this world's hard. Yeah. And if you need that to get by, I completely understand 100%, because between stress and between what we're up against, I totally get it. But what happens is we're not taught how to do something different. And all that caffeine burns out our adrenals and we start losing our adrenal hormones. And our adrenals produce a lot more hormones that research and science isn't even aware of, but it also produces sex hormones too. So our hormones get eaten, they just get eaten up. Our adrenals start getting weakened, and most women have their adrenals aren't equally strong. One adrenal's always weaker than the other, and that's a problem. And the adrenals have over 56 varieties of adrenaline. And that adrenaline, if someone betrays you, like if anybody in the audience has ever been betrayed, they know what that feels like. Like that you can't, like, oh my God, you can't like even touch that. It's so painful. And when somebody's betrayed, their adrenals actually release a different blend of hormones. And if your trust was broken, if anybody broke anybody's trust, or if your trust was ever broken, or somebody in the audience is, and out there, if your trust was broken, that's really hard. And I'm really sorry if that ever happened, because it's so hard for people. And then your adrenals produce a different blend of hormones, and it starts to kind of wear them and tear them. It doesn't mean we can't take control. We can get our adrenals nice and strong, get our hormones back in action, but it's not hormones that take us down. It's these other things that, like the adrenals weakening, that no one's talking about really, about that end, or the liver actually getting clogged up and stagnant and sluggish. It's these other things. And then different symptoms come with different viral issues that people get. And that's another thing too. Like for instance, acne is streptococcus, that's bacteria. So if you're having acne, then you have low-grade strep in your system. And anybody that has acne most likely had a UTI or a bladder infection or a yeast infection or sinusitis at one time, or an ear infection when they were younger, or a sty, or anything like this. And or strep throat sometime in the past. And then the strep goes dormant, but it's not dormant. It's just floating around doing things in the lymphatic system. And then you end up getting acne as years go on caused by streptococcus. But there's all these things going on inside of us. There's real reasons why we struggle, like real reasons, not, okay, let's just play guessing games and bait and switch people. The industries love to bait and switch women. That's what it's all about. It's let's keep them down. The alternative industry loves to get women addicted, loves to get them addicted on all the caffeine. That's a big money maker. Keep women addicted on caffeine all day long. And then the industry flourishes and women are used, and they're used for these reasons. They're not taught like, wait a minute, there's other ways to handle things, or wait a minute, there's other things we can do to get our lives back. Because, addictions are big sellers. They're huge sellers. Like it's a sure sell, a guaranteed sell that will never stop. And the alternative industry is guilty of it. So guilty of it. Look, I can only do so much besides getting the words out there for people so they have a chance to get their lives back. But that's why a big part of why our hormones are off is from the caffeine addictions.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, so for people who want to get their hormones back into balance, you would say definitely get off of caffeine, which I have to say has been the hardest part of being a medical medium person. Because by the way, I've been following your protocols for several months now, and I'm feeling better than I have felt in so long. So thank you for that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's coffee. I miss it so much. It's a true addiction. I haven't had it in several months. Chocolate is harder for me to give up, but I'm trying.
Well, I always tell people, like, a little at a time, try to keep it where it's not ruling your life or controlling you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody wants to be controlled by something. I don't think that's like what we want. We don't want to lose choices because we're being controlled by something, and that caffeine addiction, that can control us. And they know that, though. Like, they know that out there. The industries know this. The conventional and alternative industry knows this, that they can control women, and you just got to get them hooked on something. And look, I get a lot of flack for telling the truth. I get tremendous opposition for telling the truth about how how the industry loves to control women with chocolate, and the alternative industry loves to do that, and the caffeine in it and all that stuff. And I get stones thrown at me all the time. The pitchforks and the torches come out to get me. And then, because, hey, we have to stop that guy. We have to stop that guy. This guy's ruining everything, because not only is he's got the largest safe space in the world for chronically ill, and millions and millions and millions of books have sold around the world. Because, people don't know that it's not just social media. Millions of medical medium books are in almost every country in the world. And they go, we have to stop him. He can't help women like this. This is wrong.
Yeah, no, it's true. So how do you deal with the negativity and the opposition? Because I know that can be hard. And I think it would be very inspiring for everybody listening to hear how you deal with it and how you would just keep pushing forward.
Well, I got used to the discrimination when I was young, because I hear a voice, and the voice gives me all this advanced medical knowledge since I was a child. And so I got used to that. Like I grew a skin with the discriminators and discrimination aspect of it. And, that was hard. It was hard at first, but I did. And the whole thing with critics are great. Critics are really awesome, because critics are smart, and they actually will take their time. Critics will get a hold of Cleanse to Heal, and they'll get a hold of the book or the medical meaning books, and they'll actually read them, and they have open minds. Criticism is amazing. I love it. It's so important. And they'll notice, the critics will notice it's advanced medical information. Then critics look at how many people are healing. Just so here's how crazy this is. There's no healing like the healing that has occurred with medical medium books and information all these years. There's no place in health that has miraculous miraculously pulled people out of wheelchairs and got their lives back with the thousands and thousands of stories and healed the endometriosis and the fibroids and the eczema that doesn't exist anywhere else. And the lupus to this degree. So critics see that and they'll be like, okay, I have to look at this guy, or I have to look, he hears a voice. I have to put that aside because everything else it can't be matched. So critics go, they're smart and they go, let me look at the stuff. And they go, whoa, wait a minute here. And the results and the street cred. And that's what it is. As I had a doctor tell me, Anthony, you have street cred. I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? What is that?
You definitely do.
Yeah. And my doctor friend was like, no, like I had to tell you this. I had to reach out and tell you this. You have tremendous street cred, and that's what makes it happen. I'm like, look, I'm just doing the best I can. And it was funny. But skeptics is a little bit, skeptics and naysayers that don't want to take their time to really look into it and read the book. That's different. I just feel bad for them in general, because if they knew somebody that was sick and they needed help, they just ruined that chance possibly for somebody. Because I fight for the chronically ill. And then haters, that's a whole nother ballpark. Haters, I got plenty of them. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And, my great grandfather told me when I was playing on the floor, when I was really a little child and I was playing on the floor, and I was listening to Spirit of Compassion, and my dad and my great grandfather were on the couch together, and I was reciting. Here I am. I mean, 6 years old. I'm reciting information that's advanced medical information from Spirit of Compassion while I'm on the floor laying there. And my dad told me, and he told me the story was so great. And my great grandfather, was talking to my dad on the couch, and they were sitting there, and he said, they're not going to like him down the road. They're going to want to try to stop him because this doesn't exist out there. Like it was because of, I was reciting about what people suffer with, what they go through, their symptoms, what the causes were. And I was just doing that, hearing as his child, hearing the voice and doing that. And my great grandfather said to my dad will never forget it. He tells me this story all the time. And he told me to tell the story recently, and I did recently tell it. And my great grandfather said, they're going to want to stop him. People are going to want to get him. They're going to want to stop him. So I got the haters, of course, and I got the opposition, and I got that, and the naysayers. But the critics I love the critics. They're smart people, intelligent, just like everybody in the audience, highly intelligent, way smarter than me. I guarantee you your audience is way smarter than me. Like, I guarantee you there's people in your audience that would probably crush me with all kinds of information and things, but I get the information up there with Spirit of Compassion. But the whole thing is, I fight for the chronically ill and the people who are suffering. And I'm a voice for them. And that's why I'm picked on, because they never had a voice before.
I deal with a lot of haters too. I think a lot of us who talk about alternative things, especially with the internet and just the criticism that can come. But you're right. There's a huge difference between critics and haters and skeptics. So I like that you stay positive. And I like that your family has always supported you, that you were that little boy on the floor and your dad and your grandfather were supporting you back then. I mean, that's so nice.
It really was. I'm really lucky. And my parents are still alive till today. And, and they're proud of me, and it really helps. It does. Yeah. Support really matters.
Do your parents drink celery juice?
They do. They still do.
Drink celery juice now too. Thanks,
that's incredible.
Yeah.
What happens is when you're really sick, and you're using celery juice and it's moving the needle, you actually will never let it go. If you're not so sick to not sick, but not so sick, and you don't really know what's moving the needle, and you can kind of like wave back and forth on all the different things and trends that are out there and stuff, you may not catch it and really kind of catch on to it. But when you're sick and you've been everywhere and you've had 10, 15 doctors, I always tell people, always know medical medium information is here for you when you get too sick, because I get it. It's a panacea out there of all kinds of fun things to play with in the alternative movement and the different trends. And I completely understand. But when you get too sick, and it's not just a couple of symptoms that you can go to see a new kind of practitioner and then somebody else and then read something online and try a new product, and you're playing this game for a few years while you're kind of getting better, not getting better and all that. If you get past that point and you're actually getting sick, you can always fall back on making sure you do the medical medium information, or you always have that option out there. And I say that to people out there, you can play around out there and have either fun doing it or just doing it because you're doing it to survive. But you have the medical medium information to fall back on. And that's the people who really have been sick and recovered that no one else could recover and no one else could get them out. And I talk about the dosages of the supplements in there and it's Cleanse to Heal. And I talk about all those things. And I talk about the cleanses really in depth. I walk you through like I'm holding your hand with the whole process and everything.
Let's talk about the cleanses. So in this book, you offer a bunch of different options for the liver cleanse. So tell us what those different options are and what would be best for each type of person.
Well, there's 7 different cleanses in there. To begin with, there's this heavy metal detox, the medical medium heavy metal detox cleanse, which is so important because it's brought back so many people. And I always say Corella doesn't take out the metals. It's actually never did. It never will. It was around for years and years. Well, here's the problem. There's always a new generation of people coming to the health scene that don't know what everybody else went through for the last 35 years. They don't know who went through the Corella thing. They don't know who went through the Candida theory thing. They don't know who went through and suffered through all the different trends. They don't know who went through the alkaline water machine trend that went around for 35 years but never got anybody better. They don't know who actually bopped around and had to suffer through all this stuff. And the Corella, that will not get metals out. It won't even touch it, but yet it's still out there. And then the new generation, people that are in their 20s are like, well, I'm doing Corella. And it's sad because when you're really sick and you really got problems, it's those little mistakes that I clarify that will stop you from really getting better. And the cleanses are really like the heavy metal detox cleanse is one of them. I talk about how metals work in the body, why we get sick from them, like the answers are there. And then I talk about how depression and anxiety, ADHD, focus concentration problems, and how those are involved with toxic heavy metals because pathogens feed on those toxic heavy metals. And once you actually know how to get rid of pathogens and get rid of the metals, your life comes back to you. And that's one thing. And then I got really detailed mono cleanses in this book where mono foods, because of digestive problems. I mean, how many people in the audience now probably have digestive problems? I can only imagine. Mm-hmm. And I talk about something nobody even knew before is that when your nervous system around your intestinal tract get hypersensitive, you can feel the food going through you and you won't know if it's really digesting or not because because you feel it move through you, you'll think it's not digesting. And how we get tricked in so many ways. I talk about gastroparesis, what people go through there. And I have answers for gastroparesis with the mono eating cleanse and all these things that I put out before these books because I've worked on 250,000 individuals before 2014 when on the beginning of the publication of Medical Medium Book 1. But I've really put it in detail in this book so that people know, oh my God, here's where the information really is about mono eating. Now I know that he's the mono eating information because it's all here. It's not little scraps of it that got out there. It's all here and right to the bone. And so that's a cleanse, the mono eating cleanse.
So how long do you recommend the mono eating? I mean, I could look in the book, but I'm curious.
Absolutely. Well, everybody's got a different thing going on. And I talk about different symptoms. I talk about, like how long you can do it. I talk about all of that. And if someone actually reads that, they'll just get all those details. I go into why we have cravings. like why we have food cravings.
Why do we
like,
have cravings? And this is something.
yeah. Yeah, and that's a whole nother thing. And I talk also about not just why we have cravings, emotional like cravings. What happens when we detox and cleanse? What happens emotionally as as fat cells explode? And that's a whole other thing too. And how pathogens can explode when pathogens die in us and they explode. And fat cells also explode, how there's information. And also, this is the big one right here. There's stored adrenaline inside of us, stored adrenaline from when we had a hard time. So if someone had a loss or they had a hard time in their life or a struggle or a betrayal or trust problem, or they've been hurt, or they've been hurt emotionally somehow, and that adrenaline flooded their system. Jordan, did you ever have a situation where you had confrontation and you were literally shaking?
Oh, yeah.
Like
so many times.
like the adrenaline was surging and you were just so mad at a friend or so mad at somebody that did something?
Yeah.
Well,
I absolutely have.
Well, that adrenaline, it gets attached to cells in the body. It gets attached to cells in the liver. It actually saturates liver cells, and it actually goes in deep into the organs. And when it goes in there, it gets stored. And then when you start cleansing, and it even gets stored in fat cells. And so our fat cells even store it. And especially if we're on a high fat diet, like a really high fat diet, we sop up all that adrenaline from when our friend totally like betrayed us or hurt us or texted us something terrible. And then our blood was boiling when we got that text. And our blood boiling was our adrenals flooding our body. And we were shaking like, oh my God, how dare this person say this to me? And that adrenaline gets sopped up by our high fat diets, then gets sucked into the liver and then stores into fat cells and liver cells. And so that when we cleanse or even when we're doing something healthy in our life, it is whatever, some other thing we're doing that's healthy in our life, and any of those fat cells explode or any of that adrenaline releases from the liver, it'll have the information in it of what we went through the time it was released into our system when we were upset. And then that triggers off feelings, nostalgia, sadness, mild depression, food cravings, foods that we ate when we got really upset. And it triggers all of this off. Like sometimes we hit the comfort foods when we get upset and we're betrayed, or sometimes we don't eat at all. But many times we eventually eat while we're upset. And then we sop up that adrenaline, and it has information stored in it about that experience of who broke up with me and what kind of relationship had a problem and who did something terrible to me, or what did I go through? And that information gets released, and it could trigger off cravings, and it could trigger off experiences and feelings and nostalgic and sadness or depersonalization. I go really deep into this in Cleanse and Heal, like just so you know, and nobody knows this information. This is all Spirit of Compassion. So it's not out there in any other place or anywhere. And I go into detail about it to a point where I can't even scratch the surface. I'm giving you like little tidbits, like scraps is what I'm doing.
It's fascinating. I'm going to flip right to that section in the book after we talk. Okay, so since we're talking so much about green juice in this episode and nutrients and all the vital nutrients we need to protect our immune systems, I wanted to thank our second sponsor for today's show, Organifi. I have been drinking Organifi green juice for a couple months now, and I've been seeing huge benefits. It's such a good way to start the morning after my celery juice, of course, and before my heavy metal detox smoothie. So first of all, I want you to know that you can order any Organifi product today, and you'll get 15% off at Organifi.com/blonde. That is ORGANIFI.com/blonde for 15% off any of their products. So the reason why I am such a huge fan of Organifi's green juice right now, especially, is because it is full of real superfood ingredients like ashwagandha, moringa, matcha green tea, and turmeric, plus different things like spirulina, mint, beets, wheatgrass, lemon, and coconut. And it really tastes so delicious. So I know when I'm sipping on it that I'm getting that healthy boost of greens. And I also just really, really like the taste. It's easy to prepare. So if you're like me and you roll out of bed and it's time to start the day already, just know it takes only 30 seconds to make. You just add a scoop to water first thing in the morning or after celery juice or really whenever you want to drink it and enjoy. You don't have to chop or juice or blend. It is as easy as can be. It tastes really good. You guys know in order to be TBB approved, it has to taste good. It also has to be 100% vegan to be TBB approved, soy-free, keto-friendly, gluten-free, dairy-free, all the things. You guys know I only mention products to you and accept partners that really speak to me. I have to use them in my everyday life. I wouldn't waste your time or my time talking about something that I don't love. Something really cool is that they ship straight to your door. So you don't have to go to the store, which right now is important. A recurring delivery is included in your subscription. So it can be automatically delivered on your schedule. And yes, it's good for your immunity. It tastes good. I think you'll love it. So check out Organifi.com/blonde and get 15% off any product. Organifi.com/blonde for 15% off any product. Okay, now back into this episode with Anthony, my favorite person ever. I'm curious, do you have a favorite part of Cleanse to Heal, given that it is so comprehensive and so amazingly full of info? What was your favorite part to write?
You know, it's so funny because the dedication is to the underdog, and that's basically everybody who's been done wrong, kicked aside, not heard, and with their chronic symptoms, with their illnesses, from people who are being told it's their fault or whatever it is. It's for the underdog. It's that always means so much to me. It's for the people who struggle and suffer, and it's about really understanding what they went through. But my favorite, the microbiome chapter, I have a microbiome chapter because I talk about how microbiome really works, the truth about it, and how it's a trend that's still not exactly what we need. And I go into it in depth. And also my intermittent fasting chapter might get people upset. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping.
I read the intermittent fasting chapter pretty much first because I was just very curious about it. And that was super interesting. Can you talk about that a little bit here?
Yeah, that's really intense, and how intermittent fasting gives people that relief, but it's temporary relief because it's still not the best way to go. And later on, we can age faster because of it if we're not doing it right. We can age faster. We can get the aging skin later on. We can max out our adrenals and waste them until when we're 40 years old. Intermittent fasting actually didn't help us, or when we're getting older and we're getting into our 30s, it didn't help us. But it is helpful because it stops people from eating too heavy in the morning mostly. And that's why intermittent fasting is even helping. And they're taking out fats in the morning by accident without even realizing it. And when they're removing fats in the morning and they're not burdening their liver, they're actually starting to pick up energy and things are starting to shift with their health. And I go into detail on like how and why it works in a way for people. But I also talk about how in the end, it's not the best route, but I give details on that. Somebody's got to be getting upset out there saying, wait a minute, he could be wrong about intermittent fasting. But I want you to read the chapter. I really want you to read the chapter so that you don't get upset. And
it's very timely for me to read that chapter. Well, I've been intermittent fasting and feeling really, really good. And then I read that chapter and I was like, oh, this is why I'm feeling so good, because I'm getting this adrenaline rush that you're talking about.
And caffeine, because most people, not everybody, I get that, but most people are using the caffeine stimulation for their intermittent fasting. Right. And so they're running on that caffeine adrenaline high while they're actually, eating less food. And it really could give you that boost for a lot of people. But I talk about how there's a safe way of doing it. That's what it is. There's a safe way to do it to protect you that has glucose and mineral salts, things that your brain needs so that you don't burn your adrenaline out and your adrenals. Because that's what happens. We waste our adrenals. I've seen this over and over again over the years. I've seen people, they're doing things that aren't the best way to handle it, and then they pay later. My job has always been, look, I'm going to try to stop you from, or stop something bad happening from down the road. I mean, wouldn't you want somebody to come from the future, to come right, somebody in from the future to all of a sudden appear out of nowhere and say, look, you can do this a different way, because what's going to happen later is going to be something that's not good for you. And that's what Spirit of Compassion always said. You're the guy that's coming from the future. You timed machine here. You time machined here, but I didn't really time machined here. You know that guy. All you guys know that. But it's like Spirit of Compassion always says, it's like your time machine here got you here, and you're there to tell people, wait a minute, we can catch this now early. We can catch this. Now, it's like a lot of people who first got sick and they found medical medium first. Like they first got sick, then they found medical medium information first. They got themselves better. And then they were able to live their life and follow their dreams and everything. And they were spared all the mistakes. They were spared all the trends and all of the different, the trendy things that are going on and the guessing games. They were spared of that, because millions aren't spared of that. But the people who found medical medium first, when they first got sick, were spared of 5 years of, okay, now it's candida. Okay, now it's microbiome. Okay, let me make sure I'm intermittent fasting the wrong way. Let me make sure this, let me do this. And it's over and over again. And let me do chlorella, let me do probiotics. And maybe it's Lyme disease, maybe it's not. And they go through this. Yeah, they go through this thing. People have been spared that. So many, by finding the information first. And so it's like, what can I do to try to stop somebody from, from having the life the life that they really weren't getting the best quality of life for the future? How can I kind of get there and be like, hey, wait, you can do it this way. You don't have to go through 10 years of hell and back like everybody, like so many people do. And that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, that is incredibly empowering. And I'm so happy that you put all of that information and then some into this book. So just a couple more things about this book in general. I love what you say in this book about weight loss and just kind of addressing the questions about weight loss and people wondering why they don't lose weight during the cleanse, the tips that you give them. So can you talk a little bit about that here?
Oh, absolutely. I walk you through in detail in this book. So, you can learn how, it's for people also who feel like they can't put weight on. There's that person too, where it's the mystery weight loss that they're having and they want some weight gain. And I talk about that. And then there's the people who have weight and how that comes off, and how when the liver gets cleaned up and isn't stagnant and sluggish anymore, and how that weight can just melt off. And it takes time. It takes time depending on what's in somebody's liver and all of that. And it's like the square one roll of, and here's the thing too, is I talk about bulking and cutting and what's happening there and counting macros. And I talk about that whole aspect too, because I know that a lot of people, they do the bulking and cutting, and what happens is they start gaining weight to try to gain muscle, and then they can't get the weight off anymore. And, I go into that aspect too. But I really, as far as the weight loss goes, there's a cleanse in there for anybody with weight problems so that their weight can come off. That's the whole point too. You can literally choose the cleanse. You can go in there and choose the cleanse that's going to get the weight off for you.
So which one is that?
And that's a big deal. And I wrote about a concept I call, and I'm trying to remember here because the book is so fat. It's so big. It's unbelievable. Square one rule. That's what it is.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Square
I
one
was
rule.
just reading that before we talked.
Yeah. And I really go into depth on the weight loss on that. But the bottom line, I have an advanced 369 is what I do. So it's an advanced 369. And that's for somebody to take that to the next level if they're not getting the weight off. This advanced 369 is so powerful. And that's really going to help people if they're struggling with it, and you could repeat it. So it's like everything's in detail. Like, look, this is how you could repeat days 7 and 9 out of the 369. You can do the original 369 and repeat days 7 and 9 and get the weight off. And that's what's powerful. Like, you can do repeats from day 7 to 9 and continue that to get weight off. Like, these are things that when you're in this, you'll be like, oh my God, it's here and I could get the weight off. So that's an example. I have an advanced 369 where you can repeat days and to work on the weight aspect. So, I mean, these are just some of the things. The mono eating cleanses will get the weight off for so many people. And I talked in depth about weight loss, like the whys and hows and how come people are dealing with weight gain, how to get it. I mean, it's just packed.
Yeah, no, I loved that part. That was so informative and will help so many people. Okay, so top 5 things someone can do to improve their health if you had to choose top 5.
Well, one thing I wanted to say is to begin with is when you're cleansing, it's a spiritual experience. And with Cleanse to Heal, the information comes from above. And it's really a spiritual book when you think about it. And the top 5 things somebody can do is realize that when they're cleansing, that's a spiritual experience.
Yeah. Totally.
And it sets the stage for somebody to spiritually grow in any way they want to afterwards too. It really helps rebuild the soul. I talk all about the soul and how our soul gets hindered along the way with experiences we're going through in life. And this is a soul building book. It's not just empowerment on a physical body empowerment where we can take control of our health, but it's a soul building book. It's a spiritual cleansing book too. And, I even talk about like any medical medium cleanse goes beyond the physical. The 369 cleanse is a spiritual cleanse. So is every other cleanse in this book and in this series. That's because they are not man-made. They come from above. And the thing about cleanses out there, they're man-made. Everything's man-made in the alternative industry and conventional industry. And the reason why I think this took people to that level of healing like no one's ever seen before is because it's not man-made. I certainly could have never put words together like this or written this book. It's impossible. I mean, it just would be impossible. And so, there's something in the book that I'm reading now. What they may not realize is that using the medical medium information to get better is the very genesis of their spiritual journey. As your body goes from twisted up and sick and struggling to physically free, your soul is freed up too. And you're more easily able to continue your spiritual development. The same information that heals your body, heals your soul. And I'm out of the top 5, knowing that this is a spiritual cleanse, knowing this is a spiritual experience, I think is really powerful to get somebody in a place.
I completely agree. No, that's beautiful.
And so what are the other things that would be great for people to do? Mm-hmm. I would say, I'm besides reading Cleanse to Heal, of course, I'm always about the celery juice and just, even if you don't know yet what it's doing for you, know that it's there. It's something you can fall back on. It's more powerful than people realize or know. And so it's not like, oh, we've been there, done that, celery juice. I told people about celery juice before. Actually, it really is like a secret tool, a secret weapon that's here for us to battle chronic illness. I mean, hundreds of millions of people are doing it for a reason. And it's not because it's easy to do. It's just not easy to do. I don't like juicing celery in the morning, but I know what it does. There's still that. That's important to know. I think the other thing is emotionally, we still have to know that our sickness is not our fault. We always think it's our fault. And that's important to know that it's not our fault, because if we think it's our fault, we're doing harm to our soul. And if we really want that empowerment, having our soul free from the harm of believing everything's our fault or it's our body's fault is real, like our body attacking itself or our body's faulty or we're thinking ourselves sick. we have to let that go. That has to be something we let go. It's one of the other like pieces or tools that's so powerful to protect us.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's that important. It's that important.
Yeah, no, that's been huge for me in my healing journey from Lyme, just letting go of that and focusing on the emotional and spiritual elements like you're talking about. Those have been just as huge as anything physical. So I can totally second that. And I love that you mentioned that.
And, another thing, starting the day with the morning cleanse, where you're fat free in the morning, where you're not doing fats in the morning. That's important right there. Is you're just, you're giving your liver a break. That's important all on its own. So you're doing the morning cleanse, you make it a morning routine, and, you keep the fats out. And then that's when you're like, okay, wait a minute here. You're giving the liver a break, and that could really help. And it's for the liver, and because the liver needs that. Giving your liver that morning routine can do things people don't even know can be done. But if we're doing the caffeine all morning, and that's tricky because then we're kind of tiring the liver out by filling it up with adrenaline. So that was the other thing. So I just kind of reminding people, can try to do your caffeine later on in the day if you can. If you can't get off your caffeine and you need it, you feel like you need it and everything else to function, try to do it later on in the day if you can, and give your that morning break to just hold the fats away. And I talk about this in detail in Cleanse to Heal. It's doing the morning cleanse.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. I've been trying to stay off of fats since the last time that you were on the podcast and taught us all about that. And it's hard, but I have noticed that it has improved my healing very much. And I've gotten more used to it. So it's not as hard as it was at first.
That's amazing. And another thing would be try to avoid fruit fear. So I've been teaching about that for years, and try not to fall into the fruit fear thing. Try to avoid it with everything you can. Almost reprogram that fruit is not the enemy, and that fruit is not. It's not why we're sick, and it's not why millions of people around the world are sick. People don't even eat fruit.
Right.
People have a blueberry on a blueberry muffin, or they have strawberry and strawberry shortcake over the years, or people aren't sick because of fruit. I think that's just that alone right there is to not be afraid of it, not thinking there's too much sugar in it, because in order to battle even a high fever, in order to actually recover from that, you have to have enough glucose for your glial cells in the brain. You have to. And if we run our brain low on glucose, and we run them low on glucose for a long-term time period, we lose the glycogen storage in the brain. We set ourselves up for Alzheimer's, memory issues, dementia down the road, and we set ourselves up for brain fog. And our brain actually shrinks. We get atrophy of the brain, and that happens out there. That's what's going on because people are afraid of actual fruit. And then they end up getting atrophy of the brain. They're 50, then they turn 50 years old, and they turn 52, 53. They're getting all those early signs of problems. And even people in their 20s, you get atrophy of the brain. And so that's another thing. Try not to fall into fruit fear. That's another piece of advice I could give.
Wow. Okay. Those are amazing tips. Love hearing all of that. I think that people reading your new book, I think that will help them with the fruit fear. If anybody listening out there is afraid of fruit and the sugar in fruit, I think reading your book will help so much because it explains why fruit is so healing and like the properties of apples and dates and so many delicious fruits like that. So that's one place where everybody listening can start. I, for one, am very excited about all the recipes in your new book. There's so many options and just so many like new and exciting things to try.
Well, I'm honored. I'm honored you like it. I'm honored you like the book, and I hope everybody who gets a chance to see it. If you can't purchase it because you don't have the money to get it off Amazon or something, go to the library when the libraries are available or opening up or however. And when the time comes down the road, you can get into a library and just take it out for free. I always tell people, I try to stock the libraries myself. I buy books and then I go to the libraries and we try to deliver and fill libraries up with the medical medium books, and we're going to do the same thing with Cleanse to Heal, and just try to get it that way if you can. Everything's for free. Medical medium information is part of why we're the largest safe space, is because everything's for free, no charges anywhere ever. So it's just about making sure that somebody who's sick and they're trapped on Mattress Island, or and I have a quote in the book that's really kind of neat. It's not survival of the fittest. It's not that people who haven't been trapped by chronic symptoms simply understand the secrets of life better than those who get sick. It's survival of the ones who come into this world less toxic, with lots of love, support, and resources at the same time, and then happen to stay that way while here on earth. If you have ever found yourself lying in bed, scrolling through somebody's feed of waterfalls, beaches, and smoothie bowls with peanut butter, wondering where you went wrong to land yourself on your little mattress island apart from the world, know this: you didn't go wrong. You are not faulty or less than. The reality is that outside circumstances and inherited poisons and pathogens, not internal weaknesses, determine the challenges we face, and someone who hasn't suffered health challenges can change their fate. So someone who has suffered health challenges can change their fate. The key is to know how prevention and healing really work. And I say this because I bet you at one time, Jordan, when your Lyme was really bad and you were just like, laying in bed and stuck in bed, that whole thing. I mean, you know it.
I know that life all too well.
And you're probably just watching, people live their life, the best life that, they can out there through social media. And you're like, oh my God, I'm stuck here on Mattress Island. I'm stuck.
Hard.
I mean, right? Because I know you went through so much. And, that quote in the book is important to me because exactly, you went through that. And so many other people are on Mattress Island and they're watching people live their lives. And I just want to say to everybody, there's a way to get better. And there's a way to change your fate and to move forward. So
empowering. I loved reading that quote in your book. It made me feel so seen and just so understood, because you're right. For those of us who did come into this world a little bit more toxic or just not at an advantage with our bodies and the toxicity in our bodies, it's hard. So thank you for standing up for us and for writing the books as you do and putting this information into the world. It's so healing. It's so life-changing. And we are so grateful for you.
Well, it's an honor to be here, and thank you for having me on.
Of course. So finally, do you have any books on the horizon, or is this is the book with all of the info?
I do have a book in mind with Spirit of Compassion, and I'm going to be back to writing soon, but I don't know, if it could if outmatch this book. I really don't know, but I definitely know that this book is a new level and the next level. So I'm really happy Spirit of Compassion has provided it. And I'm happy I lived through it and was able to get it done.
I was going to say, I hope you give yourself a break between this book being out and writing the next book, because you deserve it. And you provide so much information for all of us. And I feel like your human body could benefit from just a little break.
Thanks. You're the best.
It's true. I'm thinking about you.
Well, thank you so much. And, I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Okay. So everybody can find you on the Medical Medium, medicalmedium.com, all the places. And is there anything else? Any parting words you have for us?
Well, pat yourself on the back. Everybody's working hard out there. You guys are working hard on your healing process. you're washing your food, you're making your salads, you're cooking your vegetables, you're preparing your whatever dishes you love, whether you're, eating fish or you're eating something else, whatever you're doing, you're working hard on your healing process. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I stand with you on that, and I believe in you. And, and just stay strong with what you're doing, with how you're doing the things to take care of yourself, because you're on the right path when you're taking care of yourself. And everybody out there, they're working hard at this. And, no one can stand in your way. They just can't. And I'm with you, and I believe in you, and I'm proud of you.
Oh, well, thank you. This was such an incredible episode. So honored that we got to have you back for a second conversation. And yes, just thank you again.
Well, great to be here. Everybody take care of yourselves, and thank you.
Wow. Okay. So we just had Anthony William back on the podcast. That was the most exciting thing in the world. Anthony is someone who I love so dearly and appreciate, and I really honor him for A, writing this book, B, taking the time to speak with us about it today, and C, most of all, dedicating his life to helping those of us with chronic illness and helping people heal. He has a heart of gold. Like I was saying in the intro, I am so honored to know him and to call him a friend. So, unaffiliated with Anthony, I am giving away 5 Cleanse to Heal books, which I will send to you if you enter, and I will choose 5 winners. So to enter, all you have to do is rate and review this podcast on iTunes, send a screenshot to jordan@thebalancedblonde.com, and I'll be choosing 5 winners. And I really want to do this because if anyone's in a tough position right now, and they can't afford the book or they cannot access the book for whatever reason, I want to help you out so you can get access to these 600 pages of wisdom. There's a cookbook in there. There's everything. And then bonus points to enter. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I'm excited to host this giveaway for you guys. And yes, Anthony's not affiliated. Just wanted to let you guys know. But this is something that I wanted to do personally. And huge thanks to Anthony for coming on. I also want to highly encourage you, if you can buy his book, to buy it. It is amazing. It will answer every question you've ever had about any chronic illness, even just things that we deal with like anxiety, guilt, and sadness. I'm just flipping through it right now because I could go on forever. PCOS, psoriasis, PTSD, multiple sclerosis, Lyme disease, loss of libido, everything you could ever imagine. And I'm just such a fan. So if you are a skeptic, we get it. I hope you enjoyed this episode and maybe it turned you around a little bit. Anthony has no motivation other than to help people heal. So there's no reason to send anything but positivity his way. And yeah, just remember there are many different ways to heal. We are not telling you that this is how you have to heal. I have many people on my healing team who I trust, including Anthony, including my Lyme doctor, who's an MD, including my family who supports me, and that support and love really helps get me through. So there is just a lot of different ways to heal, and it's so empowering to know that we can heal, we can take control of our lives. We do not have to be a slave to doctors' offices and our mattress. We don't have to be stuck in bed for our entire lives. There is a way to heal, and I could start sobbing just talking about this because I have been so sick for so long. I have so many different people in my life who also have been so sick, and people who I speak with on a daily basis, and I just want us all to heal. That's what we all deserve, and it's possible. It's possible for all of us. I love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Anthony for coming on. Support his book. check him out on Instagram. Send him all the love. He's amazing. Tell him that you come from TBB Tribe, the Balanced Blonde Tribe Strong. And also thank you to our sponsors, Hum Nutrition and Organifi, for sponsoring this episode. Check out those discount codes in the show notes. I literally only share things with you guys that I absolutely love and adore. And yeah, okay, so I am going to be doing some deep healing for Lyme by the time this episode comes out. So send me some love, and I can't wait to connect. Thank you again to everyone who listened, and Anthony for coming on, and we will all talk soon. Thanks, guys.